Hello YouTube, this is Crane Productions 27 here, and this is the moment I think all of you have probably been waiting for. I'm going to be doing my review on Journey Beyond Sodor. Now some of you are thinking, hang on a minute, why am I doing this review now? Surely I would wait to do the review when the DVD comes out. Now this is true, because I've done it with Tale of the Brave, Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure and The Great Race. But this time, because everybody else has got theirs out of the way, I thought it would be best if I got mine out of the way as well. I thought I'd tell you all what I think of the film. Well, as you may have heard from my recent update video, I saw the film in View Cinema 5 times, and that was because I absolutely loved it. The story was, I think, written out so well. Andrew Brenner has done a splendid job in writing it, and he has written up some new characters and new places, and he has given Thomas to have an adventure on the mainland for the first ever time. Okay, he's been to the mainland in The Great Race, and in another special, I can't remember which one it was. I'm not counting Misty Island Rescue because realistically Thomas didn't go on the mainland, but let's not go into that now. I think the special, Journey Beyond Sodor, was absolutely one of the greatest specials they've written. There's a load of good characters in it. The new characters are fantastic. The locations are wonderful. And you can really see some good comedy in the film. And the songs in that are absolutely wonderful. They're spot on, and the singing in that is superb. And I shall tell you all what I think of this special in different parts. First of all, I'm going to talk about the new characters, and I'm going to start with Beresford, the Blue Crane. We see him first. Now, Beresford, I think, is a very good character. He's a character who wants to have a friend. He wants somebody to talk to. He doesn't want to be lonely all the time. So when he stops Thomas on his journey with the big boat, he tries to keep Thomas there so he can try and make friends with him. But in a way, it wasn't really the right way to do it. But Thomas manages to play along with it, including the bit where Beresford starts singing. And then later on, when Thomas sees Beresford again, Thomas explains to him what it means to make a good friend and how important it is to be honest and listen to each other. And I think the other funniest thing about Beresford, he keeps hitting himself in the nose with his hook, and that's one of the funniest things about him. And his voice is absolutely perfect. Colin McFarlane has provided a great voice for Beresford, and in some ways I think I'm the only person who's thought about this, but I am sure that Beresford is named after Elizabeth Beresford, the writer of The Wombles. Now, I don't know if you think that's true, but I think that's possible. Anyway, next up we'll go to the two of the experimental engines. I'm going to talk about Theo next. Now, Theo is an experimental engine. He's like a traction engine, not like Fergus or like Trevor, but he's like a mixture of a steam engine and a traction engine put together. Something experimental where you can see cogs and gears on him. He's got very low confidence in him, and he's not sure if he thinks he can do it. He thinks he can't do it, he can't do it, he can't do it. But with the other experimental engines around him, they sort of like help him. They sort of give him the ability to think he can do it just by talking to him and giving him the push to go a bit further and try and make him think he is able to do anything. And like me and Theo do have something in common. Because Theo is said to be the autistic engine, I'm autistic as well, and that's something me and Theo have got in common. Being autistic may not be a nice thing, but in a way it does make us special in a way, because even if we don't understand things or think we can do things as much as we want to or feel like we want to, we know we can do it as long as we've got people behind us who can actually help us, push us in the right direction. Next up, Lexi. Now, what can I say about Lexi? Lexi is an absolutely funny character. She's got loads of different voices. She's got the ability to talk in different accents, languages. Well, not languages, in a way, yeah, but I think it would come under accents as well, because she can speak English, Scottish, French, American. She can give like a cowboy accent in a way. Whatever she says in different ways, she actually knows how to make it funny. And even I got a giggle at her when she started speaking in different tones. Lucy Montgomery voices her so perfectly. She manages to make Lexi the character that she's meant to be. And I think with Lexi, when she's speaking and experimenting in different voices, I think the term finding the right voice inside you is what would fit with Lexi. Next up, I'm going to talk about the Steelworks engines, Frankie and Hurricane. I'm going to talk about Frankie first. Frankie is the diesel engine at the Steelworks, and she is the main antagonist engine of the Steelworks, and she wants Thomas to stay in the Steelworks and help her and Hurricane out. She acts all kind to start with, and then later on you find out she's got a devious side on her, and then you discover she's willing to do anything just to keep Thomas in the Steelworks. And what happens next? She won't let Thomas go. She is quite a surprising character. Her voice actress, Sophie Colquhoun, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that name, but you know who I'm talking about. She voices her beautifully, and she's got her character just right. She can actually play her just right. And even at the last scene where Frankie burst into tears, that was done splendidly. And then you find out the real reason why Frankie and Hurricane sorry about that. When Frankie and Hurricane tried to prevent Thomas and James from leaving the Steelworks, I shall explain that a bit later. Hurricane. Now, Hurricane is quite an interesting character, because I honestly thought when I first read this that Hurricane was going to be the main villain in the story and that Frankie was going to be the nice character. But Hurricane is a good character. He's quite a nice engine on the inside. He seems to be like the more mature, grown-up engine. True, he works with Frankie and has a bit of a naughty side on him, but I think, in a way, he cares about Thomas working at the Steelworks than Frankie does. Because I think he's like more of a mate to Thomas, a friend to Thomas, because he's not as devious or as sneaky as Frankie. And I think the way Hurricane laughs when he goes, ha 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 ha, yeah, that is quite good. And Jim Howick, who voices him, does a splendid job on him, and I cannot think of anybody else who could voice him better than that. I think Hurricane is like the sidekick to Frankie. You know, like Frankie is the main antagonist, like I've said, and Hurricane is the sidekick. He's not like Frankie 100%. He's a little bit like her, but he's got his own personality on him. And I think he's a worthy character to have in the special. Now we come to Merlin. Merlin the Invisible. Well, he's not really invisible, but he likes to think he can be. What can I say about Merlin? He is quite a very interesting character as well. He likes to, because he's a stealth engine and that he's an experimental engine himself, he's one of those engines who actually thinks he can do it. And what I like about him is that inside him, he's got so much confidence in him. He's like a very confident character. He's so sure. When he says, "but we can try," that is a very confident thing for him to say. And he really does know that even if they don't succeed, he knows that they will have tried anyway. And with help from Lexi and Theo, he knows that as a team they can do anything. And I actually agree with that. Hugh Bonneville, who voices Merlin, has got him absolutely just right. He makes Merlin funny, and the way he shouts "invisibility on" is quite well done. And I don't think anybody could replace Hugh Bonneville as Merlin, because Hugh Bonneville is just the perfect man and the best voice for Merlin. Songs now. What we got? Hughes Thomas. That was the first song I heard, and I absolutely think that is a terrific song for Thomas and Beresford to sing together, and the Trucks joining in cheekily and trying to embarrass or humiliate Thomas. That is quite funny. And I also liked how Thomas managed to get past Beresford in the end and end the song, and as he runs away. That's one of my favourite songs. Next up, The Hottest Place in Town. That is one of the most catchiest songs in the special. Frankie and Hurricane singing, and then Thomas joins in as well at the end. Jim and Sophie, they are quite a duo. They really can sing that song so very well. They got the right notes just right. They hit the right notes. Well, what I'm trying to say is, you probably understand. And then when John Hassler joins in, it's better than ever. And I absolutely think that is my most favourite song of the special. Next up we got I Want to Go Home, sung by Thomas, by the brilliant John Hassler. The song where Thomas is upset that he's stuck in the steelworks and he wants to go home. He's sad to start with, and then he actually feels determined he wants to go home. Now, what I like about this song is that Thomas turns from being sad, and then halfway through the song, he actually decides he's had enough. He actually feels like he wants to go home. He wants to get out of here. He wants to return to Sodor and be with his friends. And you actually do think that it would work, but then Thomas has an accident on his way home, and then ends up being brought back to the steelworks again. We Can't Do Anything, sung by Lexi, Theo, and of course Merlin. Lexi and Theo sing that so brilliantly, and I like the little bits that Merlin puts in as well. And you can definitely see a lot of comedy happening in that song. Lexi's voices and the way she shouts and the faces she pulls and how Theo makes a mess. The turntable incident. Merlin saying he's invisible when he's not. And then the cogs and gears rolling past Lexi when Theo tries to shunt her. And then you can see bits flying all over the place, which ends up involving the water tower or coal hopper, whichever it is, falling down, crashing down. That is absolutely funny. And even if they say, we can't do anything, they have done something. They've made a mess, like Theo said in the song. And lastly, the most important thing is being friends. That is a superb song to end the special. And I absolutely think it is a cracking song, and it works very well to end the special, because it teaches Thomas and James to understand that even if you're not the favourite, and you don't have to be the favourite, don't let favouritism spoil your friendship, because friendship is more important than being the favourite. And being the James, what he thought was the favourite, he actually upsets Thomas, and this would make Thomas want to prove his importance, and that's why he took James's train in the first place, and that makes James cross. Because Thomas is tired of doing all the same little jobs, and he wants a big job like James does. Now, what other pros can I say? One of the biggest things that I liked about the special was that Rosie came back into the special, and I was so delighted to see her back. Her new coat of paint, cherry red, looked absolutely gorgeous, and it actually works with Rosie because it matches her wheels. And I never expected to see NWR or 37 written on the side of her tanks. I think Rosie's new paintwork really does suit her, and I think it's going to work very well. And her new voice is absolutely perfect. Nicola Stapleton, the new voice of Rosie, is absolutely perfect. It's nearly like Teresa Gallagher's voice of Rosie, but it may be different. But I think Nicola tried to match Teresa's version, and I think Nicola is going to do a splendid job voicing Rosie from now on. The trucks, now they were quite funny to watch. They rocked and rolled, and all the trucks had faces on. Not just the chubs and trucks, but the vans, the wagons, and I think that really does work. And it was a nod to Series 4 because I was thinking of Toad Stands By whenever I saw them. The other thing that I liked about them is that each one had different voices. Lucy, Kerry, Rob, Christopher and Teresa voiced each different truck, and I actually think that they were actually hilarious to watch. Cons. Now I think the engines who were worried about Thomas, I think that could have been looked into a bit more, because the only engines who were worried about Thomas was Emily, Percy and Edward. I think it would have really helped if they got all the other engines on Sodor to talk about how worried they were about Thomas. Like Victor, Kevin, Hero, Henry, Millie, Stephen, Howell, the Sodor Search Rescue Centre, the Narrow Gauge engines, Salty Porter, Duck, Oliver, Rosie. You get what I mean. It would help if we actually saw what the other engines felt like and how upset and worried they were that Thomas hadn't come back and that he was gone for a long time. I think that could have been looked into a bit more. And also, I'm going to talk about the movements of the engines. Now, when I first heard about the engines' movements, that they can move left and right and up and down, I wasn't happy about that at all. I did not like the sound of that. But when I started watching the special and I saw how it was handled and how they did it to make it look awesome, I think it actually does work. It's not as mad as Chuggington, and it's not gone mad with it. They haven't gone mad with making the engine's bases move quite away from their wheels. They haven't gone that far. They've kept it limited, and as long as they keep it limited and don't go mad with it or use it too much, then I think it would actually work in the show. What else can I say? The last part of the film where Thomas and James tried to escape the Steelworks, now the point of that was that Frankie and Hurricane wanted some help, but we don't hear about that until after Hurricane rescues Thomas, and then he gets stuck, and then Merlin comes to Hurricane's rescue. Frankie is confronted by James and Lexi, and then she bursts into tears and then explains to the engines that she and Hurricane wanted some help and that nobody else wanted to help and they were busy. They had been trying ages and ages to get help. Now, some of you have said that this was out of Frankie's character, but this is what I think. Frankie and Hurricane really wanted some help, and no matter how hard they tried or however times they asked, nobody would come and help them. So I think they resorted to desperate measures. If they couldn't get an engine to help, they would wait for an engine to come and then try and force them to stay. Not like keeping them prisoner, but trying to make them stay in the steelworks and get them to help out with the work, while Frankie and Hurricane actually try and do the important stuff. Now I think that these two, they're not bad characters. They just wanted some help, and it was unfair that everybody else was too busy to help them. And then when Thomas suggests that Lexi, Theo and Merlin help, Theo doesn't think they could, but then when Thomas convinces Lexi that they can do anything, and then Merlin says, but we can try, they can try and help Frankie and Hurricane, and that's what they do. They quickly get to work, and then they start to get more work done. And with the experimental engines working at the steelworks with Frankie and Hurricane, it actually works because they've all managed to make fast friends with each other, and they learn how to be really useful and, more importantly, be friends, because being friends is more important. And I think it was written out superbly and very well, and wherever you may think, I actually don't have a problem with that last bit, because it wasn't meant to be sinister. But then when I think the sinister thing was just a front for Frankie, but when you break through that front and you find the real Frankie inside her, that is where the upset and sad Frankie is, because I think that it's like what they say, if you can't get somebody to help, you bring someone in. And I think that was what Frankie was trying to do. And I think Hurricane was just being the sidekick. If I was to choose a favourite engine out of the new characters, what can I say? I think my favourite engines from the new characters would be Lexi, Merlin and Hurricane. They would be my favourite. Oh, I mustn't forget that Darren Boyd, who voiced Theo, absolutely did a fine job, a great job voicing him. He got the voice just right, and he did the personality just right as well. Well, that's my review on Journey Beyond Sodor, and I think it was a brilliant film. It was superb. It was a great film, and it was as great as The Great Race. Well, you understand what I mean. No pun intended. I honestly cannot wait for the DVD to come out next month, and I do hope all of you enjoyed it as well. Another thing I'll say about Journey Beyond Sodor is the voice of James. Now, I was quite surprised and a bit disappointed when I first heard that Rob Rackstraw was going to be voicing James in the special and not Keith Wickham, because I thought Rob Rackstraw was just voicing James in the US version and Keith Wickham for the UK version. But I thought I'll give the new voice a chance and see what it's like. After hearing it a few times, as I saw it in View Cinema 5 times, I have to admit, James's new voice for the UK, it is quite good, and it is quite funny in a way, because in a way it sounds a bit like, it makes me think of Spud the Scarecrow, and Spud the Scarecrow from Bob the Builder was quite a funny character, and Rob's voice for James just makes me think of him. So I just want to say thank you to Keith Wickham for voicing James the Red Engine in the CGI series since Hero of the Rails, and I'll never forget his James voice. And for those of you who haven't seen the film, I would recommend this Thomas film to fans, old and new, young and old. You understand what I mean. I would rate the film a 9 out of 10, and I honestly honestly think that if the experimental engines come back again, I hope they have a good reason for bringing them back. Right, well, that's my review sorted. I hope you all enjoyed it, and this is Crane Productions 27 signing off. Good night.